Now you see, Dennis had, and his wife Kathy, had been very active locally in the Oscoda, Michigan area in avocational archaeology. Dennis had earned quite a reputation as being a freelance author and wrote a great deal of articles and about his archaeological work in the Oscoda area. This one particular site that he and Kathy worked was known as the Old Van Etten Creek site, and was along Van Etten Creek in Oscoda, Michigan. It was a multi-component site, meaning that it was occupied in the Middle Woodland period, and the Late Woodland period had a large occupation there, which dated back about 12 to 1400 years. Well, word of this got to a Bonnie Echtel, who was associated with the Mount Pleasant Indian Reservation, and Bonnie contacted some of the elders there concerning the Old Van Etten Creek site, which was very prolific with artifacts. In fact, the Morrisons had excavated the remains of over 15 prehistoric vessels at this particular site, as well as many other tools and things of daily life. Well, Bonnie contacted Dennis because the elders wanted to come to Oscoda, tour the site, and were considering purchasing it to set up an interpretive center and preserve the artifacts that the Morrisons had found there. Well, the interpretive center, of course, never came about, unfortunately, because it would have been a brilliant place to have one. But Mr. Morrison had set up with Bonnie a time to meet with the elders at her house that were coming up. There were around 12 of them altogether. And he was to give a talk to them about this particular site, and then take them over there and give them a tour of the site. The day in question, he and his wife Kathy took a small display of some of the relics that were found there over to Bonnie's house, which was in a sabble. Gave a small display and a brief talk about the site, what had been found there, how old it was, why it would be a good place for the Mount Pleasant tribe to invest some money. After that was over, Mr. Morrison and his wife took the elders in several vehicles over to a parking area where he and Kathy, his wife, had always gone in to dig for the artifacts. Well, this particular day it was posted no trespassing, and everybody felt disappointed, but Dennis knew a back way in that you'd have to go out on F41, cross the railroad bridge, and you'd come up behind the site at the bottom of about a 30-foot bluff. At the top of that 30-foot bluff is where the Late Woodland village had actually been. So they piled back into the cars and a van, and they went over, down 41 and back through, and they all got out and they all walked over the railroad bridge and back through the woods along the creek, and they got to the foot of that 30-foot bluff, and Hap was the name of the leader of the group of elders, and he said that they were going to do a special ceremony there. And I remember Dennis saying specifically that he asked what would happen if somebody saw us up there walking around, since it was recently posted. Hap said, we're going to do this ceremony and nobody will see us up there. So Hap gathered stones and built a small, almost primitive altar there at the foot of that bluff, and he gathered various weeds and different things and some birch bark, and he put those on the altar, and he lit them. And I remember Dennis in particular saying what a sweet, sweet earthy aroma it was as that smoke came up from the altar. And Hap did a prayer in the Chippewa tongue, and then in turn asked each one of those gathered there, the elders, to say that prayer along with him, or to say a prayer, talk to the spirits of the people that he believed, or that they believed, still dwelt at that place that they had inhabited for so long and so long ago. So after all the Native Americans had said their their piece to the spirits, he turned to Dennis and he said, "Now would you like to speak to them?" And of course Dennis couldn't speak Native American, and he told Hap that, and Hap told him to just go ahead and speak what was on his heart. And so he did. And then the offer was also made to Kathy, who she declined because she didn't have much of an inclination towards spiritual matters. When they had finished, Hap told everybody there, he said, "Now we're going to go up to the top of that bluff, we're going to walk that village site, and we're going to check out everything there, and no one will see us." So everybody there's a steep trail that goes up that bluff, and everybody made their way up there, and they got to the top, which was a flat area flat wooded area with trails where the village site had been. And there were other people violating the no trespassing signs that were hiking out there and walking about. And I remember Dennis telling me what a strange sensation it was, because people would walk right past him and right past the others, and it was like they were invisible. They didn't even notice that they were there. He said that it was almost like being in an eerie science fiction type movie. They were for all intents and purposes could not be seen, and were not seen, as far as he could tell, until they went back down the bluff, put out what was left of the smoldering concoction that Hap had put together on the altar, scattered the altar, and then Hap just simply said, "It is done," and everything was back to normal. Unfortunately, the Mount Pleasant tribe didn't decide to put money into the site, but nonetheless, an interesting and somewhat enigmatic chapter in Michigan mysteries.